Hello and welcome to the second e-session within the Improving Communications unit in your My Progress on-demand e-sessions. Before we get started in the content today, I would like to remind you that following this video there will be a short questionnaire for you to go through to kind of review what we've talked about. But there will also be an areas for improvement. What I'd like for you to do is one thing that you've learned from session, an aha moment, and put it into that areas for improvement. That is something that you're going to apply to your daily work life or personal life, and we'll discuss it in the next e-session. Alright, well let's get started. What is communication? That's a pretty simple question, but a very complex answer. There's so many different aspects of communication. You know, you work with organizations, 25,000 employees, in an organization that has 5 employees, they both struggle with the same thing, ineffective communication. Why is that? Because there's so many different elements of communication also. There's a verbal, nonverbal, written, whatever else you can think of. People communicate in different ways. It's up to us to understand where they're coming from and talk to them on their level. So a simple answer to what is communication, it's an exchange of information. Alright, let me read a quick quote and then we'll dig in. Communication is the largest single factor determining the kinds of relationships an individual has with others and what happens to him in the world around him. How he manages his survival, how he develops intimacy, how productive he is, are all largely dependent on his communication skills. That's a quote from Virginia Satire. Let's talk about communication, how it impacts our relationship with our peers. It means our fellow managers, fellow employees, fellow frontline employees, fellow executives, whatever the case may be. But if I'm a poor communicator, odds are there's what's called a silo effect within your organization. That means that your department takes care of itself and his department or her department takes care of their self. What happens is the ball gets dropped on a regular basis from a handoff from one department to the next. Who pays the price for that? Of course, the organization pays it, but also your customers pay the price and your employees pay the price too. Because there's a lack of shared ideas and a lot of unnecessary mistakes. If I've experienced a challenge, I want to be able to go to another department and share that challenge with them so they don't go through the same thing. So as a strong communicator, some positive things that can happen within your organization is there's a lot of creativity in an environment of high collaboration and high communication. Plus, we give a strong understanding of where we're coming from, but also we want to be able to understand where they're coming from, which creates teamwork and a consistent message throughout the organization. That's what we want. That creates consistent results. What about communication with your direct reports, the people that report to you? If I'm a poor communicator, my employees do not know what I want from them. And so they make a lot of assumptions, and we all know what happens when people make assumptions, right? Or they assume. So we get an inconsistent productivity level. But if I'm a strong communicator with my direct reports, hopefully that's going to influence them to keep that line of communication open with me and amongst themselves. But it's going to let them know what exactly is expected of them on a consistent basis. But also it's going to create respect. If they know they can come to me and I'm open, I'm going to share ideas with them, they know that I'm not trying to micromanage them, they're going to show respect and trust for me as a leader, which in turn, I'm going to trust and respect them. So again, that gives that understanding at a separate level. How can communication impact your relationship with your boss, the person that you report to? If I'm a poor communicator, again, there's a lot of assumptions that happens. Low trust, low respect. But also, how it impacts you directly is the fact that there might be opportunities that's passed by you just because your manager doesn't feel comfortable with maybe giving you a reference or giving you that opportunity to step up and be a leader, to lead a project or whatever it might be. But if I am a strong communicator, a consistent communicator, there's less breakdown in the chain of command. What I mean by that is that if I'm managing somebody and they don't feel comfortable with me and they feel like they can bypass me and go around to my boss, then that is a breakdown in the chain of command. But if I'm a strong communicator not only to my peers but to my direct reports and also my supervisor, people don't feel like they can bypass you and work maybe your boss against you or one employee versus another employee. So there's a level of consistency too. That's what we want, again, is with strong communication creates consistent results. But also, if I'm a good communicator with my supervisor, with my boss, I'm creating an ally at a higher level. All right, let's talk about dialogue. That is a strong element within communication. So what is dialogue? Let's talk about three main things within dialogue, and then we'll break down those three categories. First of all, dialogue is sharing one's point of view. Me being able to go to you and share what I see, my point of view on the situation. The next element is listening to another's point of view. I want to build that relationship to where people can feel like they can come to me and share their ideas, and I'm going to listen to them. That's a level of respect. Then once we come to that understanding, there's what's called a pool of shared understanding. That means that we are meeting in the middle. That means that I've listened to you, you listen to me, there's that mutual respect, that mutual trust, and we're going to find common ground. I know that I'm not always going to get what I want, but I also, in an effective relationship of communication or dialogue, that it's going to come out in the end. That I might not get exactly what I want now, but I might get an opportunity in the future. So, which creates, again, respect and trust amongst your team members. All right, well, let's talk about some characteristics within dialogue. First characteristic that I want to talk about is keeping your composure during a heated discussion. Why would that be important? For a few different reasons. You don't want to get a reputation for what they call a hothead, or somebody that you can't come talk to in a stressful situation because they overreact. And we all have a tendency to do that. We let our emotions get the best of us. It's called emotional intelligence. What we want to do is send a message to our employees, to our coworkers, to our boss, that we can handle difficult situations, that we're going to step back and think logically. But also we're going to send a message that you can't get to me by you getting in my face, and I'm not going to jump right back down your throat. So once people understand that they're not going to get a rise out of you, and a lot of people do that, a lot of people know if I can get under their skin, they're going to explode, and then poor me, then they become the victim and you become the villain. So be careful, don't overreact. Think things through logically. That critical thinking should kick in. How about seeking balanced participation in discussions? Why would that be important in effective dialogue? Well, I want my people to know, or my coworkers, or my boss to know that they can come to me and I'm not going to drive the conversation. I'm going to give them an opportunity to give me feedback. When you get somebody that comes to you and they don't get a word in edgewise, what are they going to do next time? Odds are they're not going to come to you. They're going to bypass you, and that's back to that chain of command that we talked about earlier. If they don't feel like you listen to them, if they don't feel like they get to express their point of view, eventually they're going to quit talking to you one way or the other, either go around you or just shut down and do just the minimum amount of work. The next characteristic is go directly to the person whom you have a concern with and try to resolve it. Why would that be important? People have a tendency to triangulate things. If I have a problem with Joe, I might go to Susan and complain about Joe. But what's going to happen in that situation? A couple of things. Joe's going to catch wind that you're talking about him. You're going to get a little bit of a reputation for maybe not having that backbone in dealing with the situation. But also, the person that you're talking to is thinking in their minds, well, they're talking about Joe this time. Are they going to talk about me when I'm not around? So there's a level of respect that is lost for you as a leader, but also they don't feel comfortable with sharing their thoughts and concerns with you because you might go off and tell somebody else. So be careful, have that backbone and walk up to somebody and talk to them in a non-defensive way and say, you know what, I've got some concerns, can we sit down and talk about it? And again, keep your composure. And that's hard to do, especially if you have somebody that's confrontational. All right. The next characteristic is allow others to challenge your ideas. Why would this be important? We want people to know that we're open-minded. If somebody comes to us and says, hey, I've got a great idea, and you say, I don't have time for it, or nope, that's not going to work, what's going to happen? Again, they're going to shut down. Maybe they don't feel like you value them. But also, if you allow them to challenge your ideas, that gives you an opportunity to go up to them next time and say, hey, you know what, I know this is what you want to do, but this is the reasons why I don't feel like we can do it. So they're going to be very open. So it builds that dialogue, it builds that respect, that trust, that I'm going to be able to come to you and share my thoughts, and I'm going to do the same for you. So allow others to challenge your ideas, Plus it opens up creativity and it might give you a new angle, a way to do things. The next characteristic is deal with problems rather than personalities. The easy way out is to, if somebody's late for work or they're not doing what you asked them to do, is to attack the person. You know what? If you weren't so lazy and you got up earlier and got to work on time, life would be a lot better for everybody else. You know the world's not wrapped around you, right? That's the emotional side of things. But what happens in that situation? It goes back to that fight or flight mentality. You know, they're going to fight their way out of it. They're going to defend themselves. They're going to be on the defense every time you interact with them, or they're just going to say, forget it. You haven't seen anything yet. You think I'm 15 minutes late. Just wait. So what we want to do is show them that ripple effect of them being 15 minutes late or something that they've done wrong, how it impacts the team, not just themselves individually or you as a leader, because they don't want to let down their team members or the organization. So again, don't attack the person, attack the problem, and come up with solutions on how you can avoid that situation or what you can do to help them get through that situation, which creates a high level of respect. Even though they might be wrong, it gives them a broader view of the outcome of that, maybe that challenge that they're faced with. All right, this ends this second e-session, and I hope you've learned a few things and you can apply them to your daily work life. So over the next week, if you would, fill out your areas for improvement, but also your questionnaire, and then we'll review them during the next e-session. Have a great day.